Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on YouTube, D546? Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video if you like the video. And I won't tell if you click that bell. But let's go ahead and get into this. Alright, so the Giants made some moves in the last couple of days to get the roster down from 85 to 80. The first move, I think it was yesterday in the morning or the day before, something like that. Rysen John was put on IR, and we all know what the story is with that. The dude sprained his ankle, and when teams see players that are rising like this, no pun intended with Rysen John, but when teams see players like this and they have a chance to put them on IR to guarantee them, a spot back on the team next year, and they know that they probably aren't going to have a good shot at making the roster this year, they're going to take that opportunity every time. So this dude is going to sit, on the bench or sit with the team on IR for the next 17, weeks, including the playoffs, extra, including all of that too. He's not going to play this season at all. When you put someone on IR before the season, they have to miss the entirety of the season. When you do it after, I think it's a 3-week thing, and then they can be activated from it. But Rysen John will stay with the team for at least the next year. He will get another shot at making the roster next year, and I think he'll have a good shot at doing it, especially with Kyle Rudolph getting another year older, especially with Evan Ingram moving on. But Rysen John is basically in that same role as Evan Ingram, as a guy who's a pass receiving tight end with a lot of physical upside. The only thing is he's a lot taller than him, and he's probably a better target to throw to because he's so big of a target. But Rysen John is going to be on IR, and we won't see him this year. The second guy that we got rid of was the second guy we put on IR was Quincy Wilson with the ankle. Now, I don't know what was going on with his ankle. It might have just been a sprain and could have been anything. But Quincy Wilson, same thing. He's on IR. He's going to get another shot, depending on what the team does between now and then, to make this roster again. So those two, Quincy Wilson also was the guy who caught that interception in the end zone. It was going to be hard for him to make this team as a safety, seeing that we're pretty stacked at safety. We also have other guys that can play safety that are also corners. So kind of tough for him to make that roster, and he's going to get another shot at it next year again. Guys that we waived as injured. Cole Hikutini. Cole Hikutini is probably someone who's more similar to Caden Smith. He's a guy who can catch passes, but he also can block. Kind of the best of both worlds. He's not a seam stretcher, not a big play tight end, but he seemed like a reliable guy who can catch, who can block, and maybe he ends up coming back to this team in some, in some method or some way as a practice squad guy or something like that. Maybe he ends up going to another team and catching some passes for them. But Cole Hikutini was a good part of training camp for guys like Daniel Jones and Mike Glennon. He was really good tight end depth. And he's going to move on somewhere else, or he'll end up coming back for the practice squad. Next up was Montre Hardage. Not Montre Harper, but Montre Hardage, another guy who wasn't really going to make this roster. I couldn't see how he was going to do that, and we ended up parting ways with him. And then the actual only cut that we made was Carson Tinker. He's a long snapper. We do have Casey Kreider here, and he wasn't going to take Casey Kreider's spot. Those long snappers stay in the same spots pretty much for 15 to 20 years. So Carson Tinker, although he is a decent long snapper from what I've seen in his career, he wasn't going to make this team. And I guess he was here just to give guys a different look, just to be a little bit competitive for Casey Kreider. But those are the, 5 moves that we made to get the roster down to 80. Other than that, the Giants will practice with the Patriots starting tomorrow. I think that first practice starts at 3 tomorrow. The day after that, they'll also practice again with the Patriots. They said it's going to be a lot more situational stuff. Interesting things from Joe Judge. Joe Judge talked about the fact that Saquon is pretty much up in the air for this game. So the past couple of weeks, Joe Judge has just straight up said Saquon won't play. He will not play next week. He will not do this. And just to hear Joe Judge saying that Saquon is up in the air and we don't know if he'll play shows that Saquon is definitely, coming back from this. And I don't think that Saquon will play either way, but I do think that it's a good sign saying that Saquon might have a shot to play not this first game, but first time that you see the offense out there. So that was something interesting to hear. Kyle Rudolph, I didn't see much asked about him, but I did see him catching passes this past Sunday from Daniel Jones. I expect him to be activated pretty soon. Now, he probably won't be a full practice guy, but I expect him to be activated. Rudolph we don't have the bodies. Rysen John is gone. Cole Hikutini is gone. I think after making these moves, especially cutting a guy like Cole Hikutini this early, shows that Kyle Rudolph is probably coming back soon. So I expect him to get activated pretty soon. Other than that, you got Daniel Jones in the first team offense, and pretty much all of our starters all over the team about to play this upcoming weekend against the Patriots. This is what we've been waiting for all season. We've gotten to see Mike Glennon and Clayton Thorson and Brian Lewerke in these games, and it's been pretty boring to watch, if you want me to be honest. And we're finally going to see our starters out there. Guys I'm looking for: Lorenzo Carter, Azeez Ojulari again, our corners, Blake Martinez. I just want to see how this defense looks, our defensive line. How would they look for the first time out there as a new cohesive unit against a pretty competent team that I think is going to win at least, 7 to 8 games this upcoming year? I think this Patriots roster is pretty good. They're not as dynamic on defense, but we didn't get to face Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney last week. So it'll be more of the same. When you look at their quarterbacks, Cam Newton isn't going to be able to play tomorrow because of the COVID stuff, but Mac Jones will play, and he's been doing pretty good. So I want to see how he plays against our defense that's supposed to be a real high-level defense. How does a rookie quarterback play against this? The Patriots also have a couple of weapons. Ramondre Stevenson has been going crazy. That's someone I've been looking at in the draft. They also have Jonnu Smith, Nelson Aguilar, a couple of guys who have made some plays in this league. So it'll be a nice starting test to kind of ramp up for the Denver Broncos. But our starters will play a half probably. So we'll get a good sample size of mostly what I'm looking for from the defense. Daniel Jones, you can't really evaluate the dude. We talked all offseason about how we had to give him a number 1 receiver. Well, we got him a number 1 receiver, and he's not going to be playing in this game. So can we really say Daniel Jones is the same guy? He's not good, blah, 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 or he hasn't taken that next step if he doesn't have the big number 1 receiver that we went out and got for him. He's not going to have Rudolph either. He's not going to have Tony. So I'm not going to really be looking at this to evaluate Daniel Jones. What I will be looking at is the offensive line. How are they protecting? How are they continuing to run block? I will be looking at the defensive line and the rest of the defense, as I've said. And, the receivers that we have out there, what do they look like now? Because what if these injuries continue? I'm also looking at Caden Smith. Also looking at Devontae Booker and Corey Clement to see how they look for their first action in a real kind of first team offense kind of setting. So this week is the last week of preseason. Should be fun with these joint practices, and then we get a game of our actual starters out there. Maybe they do so well that we see them only for a quarter. But right now they're saying that it'll be out there for a half. Can't wait. You guys let me know what you're thinking for this week. What are you most looking forward to in these joint practices and then in the actual game? If you made it this deep into the video, come on, just hit the subscribe button. I make Giants content primarily, draft content secondarily, and during the season, I'm going to be doing a lot of reacting to pretty much most of the NFL games and everything NFL. So if you made it this deep, go ahead and join the D6 squad.